Liminal Land is a horror ARG created by YouTubers Nexpo and Nick Crowley earlier this year. Today I am going to attempt to give a fully comprehensive overview of the entire ARG so far, and that's going to mean that this video will be a lot. And because this video is going to be a lot, I'm going to break this down into digestible chapters. So feel free to skip around. Before we really dive into it though, I think we need to give a brief overview of what the ARG focuses on to begin with. So basically just the plot. So Liminal Land is a defunct theme park that was active from the late 70s into the late 80s when something happened, and that's about all that you know. Something happened that shut the park down permanently in the late 1980s. So the Visit Liminal Land website that you can visit is supposed to act as an archive of old promotional material and found footage and just a catalog of everything that was in the park and what kind of attractions and things people could expect if they were to visit. It's supposed to be collected materials from people all over who visited the park and got things that they remembered from it. Also, there's merch. It's pretty sick. I wear this constantly. There's actually multiple different lines of merch that they've dropped. This was the very first drop, and yeah, I hopped on that. I was all over it. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. And I'm simply just going to break this down like you would see it on the website. So if you go to visitliminalland.net, the first thing you're going to be met with is this home screen. And from this home screen, you can access different areas, and I think the best way to start is actually to go down to the About Liminal Land tab, and we will go through what that entails. In the early winter of 1975, Liminal Land opened its doors for the very first time. Liminal Land is located somewhere known as Lake Valley. And it was opened by a corporation that we're going to see and hear a lot from, known as the Sharon Corporation, or Charon. I'm just going to say Sharon, and if it's wrong, deal with it. And very surprisingly, Liminal Land boomed from the very start. People were coming from all over to this little place in New Mexico, and it's like kind of odd because it is a little town that's so far out of the way that just opened up this random theme park, and then everybody visits it. It's actually almost quite suspicious, the allure this place had. Over the years, there were a number of what became known as anomalous events, but there were no investigations ever done into them. Missing people, people that never returned from the park, accidents that would just happen, rides would randomly be shut down and reopened. Again, no official investigations were ever done into these, and Liminal Land stayed open for a number of years. Until May 20th, 1989, when Liminal Land was rapidly and permanently closed forever. That will pretty much sum up the entire About Liminal Land section, and we can now move on to the attractions of Liminal Land. The first attraction that we'll talk about is the Hall of Walls. This is Liminal Land's signature maze experience. It's essentially the back rooms. It's a maze, and there's just a bunch of walls that look very similar. It's sort of an escape room style maze. There's at least 7 different exits, and remember the number 7, by the way. Something that is mentioned is that there is always a Liminal Land staff member just around the next corner if you get lost or scared and want to leave without fully finishing the maze. The next attraction is the Paradise Playrooms. These are playrooms for children in which you can just drop your kids off and go about the other attractions at the park while they play comfortably in Liminal Land's signature kids experience. Like any good amusement park, Liminal Land also has a water park, and this is known as Subliminal Land. This is a multi-floored underground attraction with multiple different pools in every room, and each room is unique in and of itself, and very, very different, and it goes down for many, many floors. We're now moving on to the more roller coaster or regular amusement park type rides. This is a ride called the Laugh Track. The Laugh Track used some sort of combination of compression to the chest and some strange gases to induce a lot of laughter during the ride, hence its name. This ride was taglined, "The happiest ride on Earth." The next ride is your typical wall spinning ride called the Centrifuge, said to hold up to 100 passengers, but it was rarely ever full. If some of these seem vague and short, it's because in these descriptions in the attractions column, they are vague and short descriptions of the rides. There is more details given later on, and if those details are necessary to the point of this video, then I will be sharing them later on. There is also the ride called the Skyliner, which is tagline Liminal Land Reverse Freefall. So my guess is that you're strapped in, facing upside down, and you get shot up. Instead of a ride that picks you up and drops you, it's a ride that just picks you up, I guess. I'm not for sure. Or maybe it's like a backwards roller coaster. All we have is this picture. So we didn't see a ride that's labeled unknown, and it just says not much is known about this ride. Some think that the picture is just a concept art and was never a ride actually made, or the ride was never open for public use. There's also the Chrysanthemum. This is another spinning kind of ride, kind of like the ones you'd get in at the fair where you sit in a little dish and it rotates like that. And this is named after the flower, the chrysanthemum. And from this picture, it appears that some type of gas is used in the midst of this ride, but we can't be for sure. Something I also feel that is necessary to mention is that all of the pictures you see from Liminal Land, I believe, are done by AI, because every face is super distorted and weird. And we'll get into some lore-specific reasons for that. However, AI tends to do that with faces when... Anyway, the pictures are all made in AI, using AI, I believe. So moving on, we now see another unknown ride. This one has a caption asking that if you know anything about the ride, please fill out a form to provide information about what the ride could have been. The next ride we hear about is called the Serpentine, and this is a very strange and very ominous looking roller coaster that later on in the archives portion of the website we learned that the Serpentine has some very odd qualities about it, that it might be alive or moving or something unsettling like that. The next attraction that we hear about is something called the Funhouse, and this is a clown maze that is always empty. And finally, in the attractions section, we hear about something called Invader Cave. And this seems to be an underground transportation system that will take you to multiple different locations throughout the park. We now have an entire section called Accommodations, and this is dedicated completely to what is known as home, or the holistic and opportune mutual experience. This is described as a spiraling underground suburbial place for visitors to stay while they are at the park. So instead of going out and buying a hotel, you stay in the park at Liminal Land at their home facilities. So here we get a bit of lore dropped for the first time, and it's that home was built out of the repurposed Lake Valley Observatory employees' housing units. So we learned that there was some sort of big scientific expedition, excavation, job site, something like that, or just research facility at what is now Liminal Land, and they have repurposed the living system for the employees of said research facility into the overwhelmingly cozy home for Liminal Land visitors. Many people have described feeling overwhelmingly comfortable while inside the home facility. There are over 10,000 concurrent rooms that are operational within the home facility, all of them decorated with this sort of mix between retro and modern, and because this was the 70s and 80s, modern meaning late 70s and 80s decor, as mixed with the retro look of the 50s. Sharon, the company that runs Liminal Land, sold units. So people lived here. People literally lived at Liminal Land. Like, that's where their house was. Their house was at home. That sounds weird to say, but within context of the ARG, it makes sense. We are now moving on to the Liminal Land archives. Oh boy, this is a lot. Okay, so yeah, this is where it starts to get to be a lot. So, bear with me. The archives are a collection of information about Liminal Land, including magazines, newspaper articles, pictures, promotional flyers, and even some found footage. So I've kind of broken this down a little bit into by categories throughout the archives. So there will be an entire section of this video just dedicated to the videos that we find on the YouTube channel that is linked with this website. For now, we'll start with things on a piece of paper. This is articles, posters, and flyers, and things like that. The first thing we see is a poster, a missing poster, for Margaret J. If you read into the poster, we see that it says foul play suspected, and that she was last seen at Liminal Land. This is a police poster offering different kinds of rewards for information and for just straight up finding said person. The next thing we see is an article from a magazine called Science News from 1959. Now remember, Liminal Land didn't start until 1975, so this is multiple decades before Liminal Land was even a thing. In this article is detailed some scientific research that involved compressions on the chest that would induce uncontrollable laughter. And if you remember, this technology would later be used on the ride The Laugh Track. It's important to note that there was never any kind of safety measures taken during this experiment. It was never proven to be a safe experiment, yet it was used later on in Liminal Land. I feel like I haven't done such a great job of promoting how eerie Liminal Land is, but it's something is so wrong with it. It's just something so off about it, and that's apparent from the very first time you log on to the website. I hope that gets conveyed. It will eventually, but I hope that's being conveyed right now. The next article we see is entitled Memorandum, the Sound in C Block. So this is a letter from is begruntled the right word? Maintenance guy who works in the home facility, and he is fed up with how much of a mess home is, and how no one will stay on. People keep quitting after so much time. He can't keep anyone hired, and he keeps hearing a very strange sound in C Block, and he thinks that it could be, and then we have a lot of redacted information, but it's implied that he knows what is making the sound, or what could be, but again, that information is, for some reason, redacted. We think it probably was the most confusing thing on the entire website, and that is a Lake Valley police report from 1987. This is a seemingly very random report about a house that burnt down and 2 kids that were trapped inside. Moving on, we have another letter entitled Memorandum, Letter of Warning. This letter has a lot of redactions. However, it explains that there's something very, very wrong with Liminal Land and what's going on inside the park. There's a lot of interest around the Laugh Track, and actually it's implied that the Laugh Track is the reason that the park was shut down in 1989. Also, there is a very kind of a chilling story detailed in here about an officer found cowering in a bathroom in the subliminal land area, hiding from something seemingly, and it's most of his story that is redacted throughout this letter. Now you'll notice I'm not like reading the letters outright. I'm showing them on the screen and I'm talking about what it's about, but I still want you to experience Liminal Land for yourself. I don't want to take away from the wonderful storytelling being created here by Nick Crowley and Nexpo. So again, please check this out for yourself. We are then moving on to some more promotional material for Liminal Land. This one is the Hall of Walls flyer from 1978. This is the flyer in which we find out that the Hall of Walls has 7 new exits that have just been added. They've kind of redone the whole experience, and it's different than what it was before. And this is just a flyer promoting that to potential visitors. And this next thing is a flyer promoting Subliminal Land, and it is yeah, interesting. Subliminal Land is a water park that is 36 floors straight down of pools and slides to explore at your own leisure, warmed by remnants of energy test site. Nuke? Nuclear reactor. Nuclear reactor. Sorry, I'll save that for the theories portion. The next thing I want to look at is some pre-Liminal Land photos of Lake Valley, and it's these photos precisely that will tell you why Subliminal Land is so bad. In these photos we see something called the hub, which is just this giant nuclei at the bottom of this massive 36 floor pit of nuclear destruction, and yeah, you really realize the kind of stand-up people we've got running Liminal Land here. The other thing in the archives that we see is a poster for something called the Paradise Playrooms, which we discussed earlier in the attractions. And the poster says that this is an endless daycare. Endless. See, I don't even know how that would sound not sinister, not knowing that something went down at Liminal Land. Like, that's just sinister. Endless daycare. Final thing that we see in here is the most haunting picture in the entire ARG. It's titled Down in the Depths, and it's a picture of 1988 that says 3 boys relaxing down in the pools of Subliminal Land somewhere on floor B27. Now, the photo's innocent enough, but the pool in front of the boys, there's a body in it, and the body doesn't look human, and it looks just human enough to be disturbingly not right. I don't know. This picture terrifies me because I don't know what's in the pool in front of them. I don't know if it's supposed to be a dead body, a mutated human, if this is just like AI messing up. I don't know. And it terrifies me that I don't know what that's supposed to be. And I know that this is not probably going to be explained, and I'm just going to have to deal with this nightmare. There's another thing in this archive. It's an article, and it kind of implies that the Serpentine roller coaster is actually alive in some way. So that's interesting. Moving on to the other half of this ARG, and that is the videos. These videos are kind of spliced in there with all the archives, but they are all contained on the YouTube channel itself, so that will be linked below, so you can go and watch them on your own. The very first video acts as a end of broadcast day for Lake Valley Channel 5. We see the national anthem being played and the colors being changed, so like they're changing flags and stuff. And then it ends with a list of missing persons: Margaret Jacobson, Frank Strother, Angie Munoz, Sherry Travis, Mark Ordonez, Herman Reed, Roger Elliott, Angela Hawthorne, and Lisa Stanton. All of these people missing from the same town at the same time. Coincidence? No. The next video in upload order is a company training tape that is training employees to spot dissatisfied park goers and how to direct them to other rides that they might find enjoyable. That way that they will stay for as long as they want to. However, while that is what it is saying on the surface, something is very, very sinister about this video. It appears to be some sort of facial recognition software that is being trained by the park to identify human beings and single them out. Fun. There's a message that flashes very quickly between two of these pictures, and it says, "The park is a..." And then we cut to the next picture before it can finish typing. But it appeared to have almost been typing out, "The park is alive." Or possibly it could have been, "The park is a L something else," and we don't know what that would mean. However, I think it's trying to say the park is alive, as for reasons we'll see later. The video ends with an innocent enough, but given context of the ARG, sinister message that says, "We hope this video has helped you to keep the park goers here for as long as possible." If at any point while we're going through this, if you think I am not stating the obvious or because I don't notice it, I do. We're saving that for the end. So if you're tired of if you think you've got it already, go to the end where I theorize a little bit about what might be going on here at Liminal Land. But there's some interesting stuff coming up that will maybe change your mind about what maybe you're thinking is going on so far. The third video is an investigation tape from the New Mexico State Police Department. They are investigating the ride, the Liminal Land Anomaly. Not sure if I mentioned this ride earlier when I was talking about the attractions, but this is just essentially a roller coaster. And people who ride this roller coaster have a tendency to get their face deformed, as you'll see in this video. Something that this video keeps coming back to that I find rather interesting and a point of pause while going through these is that everyone who got on the ride was on the ride by themselves. They wandered away from their families or their group that they came with, or they just flat out came to Liminal Land by themselves and somehow made it to the Liminal Land anomaly and were on there alone when said event happened. There seems to be this sort of supernatural, unconscious draw towards Liminal Land and the Liminal Land anomaly itself. The next video is chock full of hidden messages that flash on for a frame and are gone forever. So because I watch all these from my phone, I don't have the privilege of using the hotkeys to like skip frame by frame, so I put it on 0.25 and prayed. So please forgive me for the terrible quality of some of these screenshots that you were about to see. So the video itself is just this employee training tape, which is typical. We've seen one of these already before. But this one specifically is about the home facility and how to make it more comfortable and how to keep people there longer. In this video are several hidden messages, and I'm just going to go through those because you can watch the video yourself. It's not crazy important, except it is crazy important. There's a hidden message right off the bat that says, any park goer found in possession of this tape will be disciplined with extreme prejudice. The next hidden message we see is when we see what the acronym for home means. There's a quick glitch, and we see that what the acronym is actually spelling out as hide, obscure, maintain, evict. Sinister activities, nonetheless. Another interesting message we see is when we are warned not to attempt to ascertain the size of the home facility itself, as the park employees don't know themselves. You see, home is essentially just this infinite room. It's the back rooms. The home is the back rooms. That's about all I can say. It's just this infinite facility. Another sinister message we see is that the park employees are to remove all exits whenever possible. And then there's just some creepy wording here. Maybe I am looking into it too far, but they are referring to not employees. They are referring to customers of the park as subjects. So that's fun. Now we move on to some actual found footage of a park goer filming an experience he had in the home facility. This found footage is essentially to show what not to do while in the home facility, while all this guy is doing is exploring. So apparently exploring is not encouraged within the home facility, or, discouraged. We hear this horrendous sound that the man is following, and he walks back into this back area from the home facility where he was currently at, and he sees marked on the wall C block, and there's a door, and underneath that door is this bright red light and some god-awful sounds coming from over there, fire and screaming, and it's awful. But if you'll remember the sound in C block from the archives, it was a letter the janitor wrote. That's the C block sound. It sends chills down my spine thinking about it. It's really awful and disturbing. I guess I really haven't even said why it's awful and disturbing yet. But again, end of the video, we'll get to it. Throughout this facility, there's a numerous amount of exit signs and that the man sees, but there is never an exit that he comes to, though he is following exit signs. And he ends up in this just blatantly backroom-style facility, and he's running around through all these different corridors, and he keeps seeing all these exits. And there's one in particular that does stand out to me because there's 4 exits, and each have a different color. One is blue, one is white, one is red, and one is green. And this stuck out to me because, okay, they're all different colors, and then immediately after this, we see a message pop up on the screen, and each message is color-coded. The blue message says, "May never be true." The green message says, "You'll never be seen." The white message says, "May never be right." The red message says, "You are already dead." Now, I don't know if these are supposed to be warnings as to if you take the white way, then this is what will happen to you. If you take the red way, then this is what will happen to you, or if this is simply just something else. But that my kind of working theory is that these 4 warnings are what will happen if you go down that way. So, yeah, that guy died, and then we're moving on to the next video, which is entitled Mommy's Friend. Now, as soon as you get children involved, it's always a hootenanny, so, and it just really warms you up inside. So let's get through this one as quickly as we can. However, it's very important for the lore, so pay attention. You see, the mother, Sophia Munoz, is been acting erratic since her daughter went missing. She claims her daughter went missing close to her house. However, some other things have come to light that will contest that theory. The key piece of evidence that kind of throws everything under the bus here, specifically Sophia Munoz, is that her daughter, Angie, wrote down this story called Mommy's Friend. And it talks about how her and her mommy are going to Liminal Land for the day. She says it's Lemon Land. This is a very cute little story that a little girl clearly wrote, and it's adorable because she's misspelling things, and it's very innocent and very blunt and straight to the point. And so then when Mommy's Friend enters the picture, things get a little more interesting. Mommy's Friend is actually Molek. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, just lovely stuff. Child sacrifice and things like that. I think I might have just stumbled onto the theory section of the video here. But we've got more videos to go through, so hold on to it. Just know that this bull statue is going to come up a couple more times. So, as I said, I think in the beginning, this ARG covers more than just a website and a YouTube channel. There's also a Twitter, a Facebook, a TikTok, and an Instagram. And while there's not a whole lot of extra material on here. What we do get is some very interesting things, particularly from the TikTok and Instagram. On the Instagram, we have a video of the Skyliner, which was a found footage video of the Skyliner. Very atmospheric and creepy video because there's no one around, and it's all foggy, so when the thing shoots up in the air, it just keeps going forever and disappears. Very creepy things. I'm sure terrible stuff happened on the Skyliner. Just awful stuff is happening all over the place in this series, but, there's that. We also see some footage from Invader's Cave that doesn't go well, so... There's that. And I think the creepiest video that they've put out on the, vertical video format on the social media platforms is this one of Subliminal Land, when you can hear some very definite and defined screaming coming from somewhere off in the distance while this guy just sits in the room he's in and can't do anything about it and can't really get out. I think it's important to note that Liminal Land's mascot is this bull character. I don't know if he's come up yet in the video, but I'm going to point him out now specifically. Remember Mommy's friend, and then look at the bull. So the Twitter and Facebook are essentially the same thing, but there's something interesting and important to the story that I think I need to mention that I believe is only shared within the Twitter part of this ARG. It may not be in the archives, or I could have just messed this up, because I remember earlier I was trying to figure out what Margaret J was. I thought it was Margaret J something or whatever. Margaret J was the only name given. Turns out J stands for Jacobson. We see this in this billboard from this old Polaroid from 1988. Margaret Jacobson is missing. And now this provides some context to a picture from earlier in the archives, or an article about a house that burned down. The house was Jacobson House, and there were 2 kids caught inside. The only other video I want to show is the original Liminal Land trailer. This is on the Twitter, this is on the YouTube. It's very interesting, and it kind of just provides a little bit more insight. Not really, but it provides some voices and some atmosphere to the project as a whole.
Hi, this is George. Please leave a message at the tone. Thanks for calling.
Where are you? I've been trying to reach you for 5 days. 5 fucking days and nothing. Where are my kids, Frank? Where are my fucking kids? Fucking kids! Fucking kids!
Okay, I hope I have fully laid everything out so that everyone can grasp what is going on here at Liminal Land. There is an area on the website that is passcode and protected, and I had the first passcode, and all it took you to was a picture of Molech. Molech is a child sacrifice god. I was going to do more research on this. But now it's encrypted again, and it has a different name. It says intervention now, and I haven't figured out that code yet. So I'll leave you to figure that out for yourself if this sounds interesting to you. I'm sure someone else has already figured it out. Like I said, this is an ongoing ARG, so it will continue to go on for the next 2 years, I believe, that they have said, that the creators have said they'll go for. So I'm very excited for where this is going because there's so much already. I can't imagine what else is possibly going to come out. Really, really exciting. And there's some very, very unsettling things in here. And I want to go back to this bowl figure. So the mascot for Liminal Land is this bull character, and we see him painted all over the walls everywhere in the Paradise Playrooms and in Subliminal Land and on the posters and flyers and stuff. And the other time we see the bull is in the Mommy's Friend video when we learn that Mommy took her daughter to this place within the home facility, and they met this golden child sacrifice statue. I'm just gonna come out and say it. That is the C block sound. It is people being burned and sacrificed to Molech. At least I think. There does appear to be some other kind of sound in there that would imply a critter of some kind, as if Molech himself is there. Possibly. I've got other theories. Now, notice how in the Hall of Walls, now this was earlier, and I mentioned to remember this, that there were 7 new exits added. So there's 7 different ways to get out. Within the chest of Molech, there are 7 different areas slots, I guess, that I assume are for placing human beings inside. I'm not sure. I should have looked this up. I'm going to look this up, and if it was important enough to put in the video, I will add it in later. If not, I'm going to move on. So moving on, there is some child sacrifice going on here, absolutely. But there is so much more than that. There's a lot more than that, and I don't really know how all the pieces fit together. Because there's talks of the Serpentine ride being alive. There is also that hidden message in that one video that just says the park is alive, or is trying to say the park is alive. The Liminal Land anomaly that just kind of melts people's faces, and it draws them in because it's like it's eating them. I don't know. I have no idea what that could possibly mean. Notice how it said one of the bodies was found like behind it, like it almost threw it up. So yeah, that's that. I don't know what to say. I think the Liminal Land anomaly might be a creature that is eating people. Otherwise, I don't know. Or there are some eldritch monsters at Liminal Land. That is my main theory, is that there is some sort of Lovecraftian gods there that are eating people, and they just need bodies. They just need people to eat, and so that's what's going on. That's why they're trying to keep people at Liminal Land and all this. The other part of this puzzle that is sinister, that I don't know how it ties in, is the Sharon Corporation and the whole nuclear test site thing, where Liminal Land used to be this scientific research facility, and there was all this nuclear crap going on, and they've now turned that into water parks. And there's the thing called the hub, which is literally just radiating nuclear energy up and heating up the entire Subliminal Land area. It's like, I don't know where that ties into the rest of it, the whole Molech thing, and then the other rides being alive and everything like that, plus an evil corporation on top of that. Because I know they all tie in. I don't know if it's like the gods are working for the corporation. So does the corporation know that these gods exist, and that they are actually doing this sort of like cabin in the woods kind of thing, where it's like, look, we have to appease these people, so they make this Liminal Land thing? Or do they have their own sinister intentions? Like, obviously it's all sinister and evil, but you know, it's like, if they don't eat, are these gods going to kill everybody, not just the people that visit Liminal Land? Kind of one of those kind of things. Or is this a cult to these gods? And so they are bringing people in to make these sacrifices and kill these people and appease their gods. I don't know. Maybe that's a lame theory. I don't know. I haven't really looked up anybody else's theories, but these are just the ones I've come up with on my own. And I don't want to ramble, but I do just want to say that I didn't cover everything. There's a couple things in the archive that I didn't mention. There's a couple other tabs on the website. There's galleries. All this stuff you can go through. All these things you can read fully for yourself that I just didn't go into because while I wanted this to be comprehensive, I still want you to go watch it for yourself. Don't be lazy. Play the game. Do the ARG thing. Do the thing. Because it's so cool and it's so worth it. And I think it's hard for you to come up with your own theory if you haven't gone through the whole thing yourself. You can hear what I'm saying and say that sounds dumb, but come up with something that makes sense with the lore that we have so far. And new stuff is coming out every day. This video could be outdated by the time it's out. So that's kind of the danger of making a video about a ongoing and early ARG. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys enjoyed your little stay here at Liminal Land. And we will see you next time. I'm the Soul Carney. Bye.